Ecosystem diversity. Midwest of the USA, United States of America. What is so the special about the tropics? What is so the special about the tropics? Peter Dusty. function of biodiversity. Biodiversity textiles, farming, poultry, forest, timber, and the pharmaceutical industries. Scientific role. Understanding evolution is the species in the biodiversity of parasites into the process of the evolution and this development adapting over time. Ecosystem service is studying biodiversity as the understanding the species and how the ecosystem function. This the knowledge is essential for conserving ecosystem and sustaining natural resources for future generations. Number four, social and cultural service. Centering the biodiversity provide the genetic and the emotional benefit that contributing to human well-being. Peoples enjoy the beauty of nature such as the forest, mountains, and wildlife, which supports the relation and the mental health, recreation, and the tourism. Diverse the ecosystem support contributions generating economic benefit and the rising awareness about the conservation. Cultural significance. Loss of biodiversity. Activities and the natural causes the extinction of the species is a serious global concern. The reason the extinction of the International Union for the Conservation of Ocean Trade list record the Causes of biodiversity loss. Disasters such as earthquakes and volcanic eruption can lead to the loss of biodiversity by the altering ecosystem. The immediate loss fragmentation, the immediate destruction is the leading causes of biodiversity loss. The clearness of forests, wetland, and grassland for the agriculture, urbanization, and the mining lead to the fragmentation of the degradation of the habitats. Forest, forestation, the tropical, the rainforest occasions 40% and now cover the only 6% the destruction of rainforests as the in the Amazon is the government concept. Deforest, deforestation. The tropical rainforest, which once covered 40% of Earth's land, now the cover only 6%. The destruction of the rainforest, such as the recent fire in the Amazon, is the global concern. Population and the climate change also the contributed to habitat degradation, while the human activities fragment large habitats, the isolating species and the distributing migration routes. Example, elephants in India are affected by the shrinking forests and the construction of the highway through national parks. Over explanation, overhunting, overfishing, and excessive collections of the species for the commercial use lead to their depletion. The growing the demand of the resources driven by human consumption lead to the unsustainable exploitation of the natural resources. Alien species eruption, the interaction of the native species, either the international or the accidentally can lead to their becoming invention. These the invention species may the outcome complete or the prey on the native species leading to their decline or the extinction. Except while one species begin the extinct, the species species that themselves as those that rely on longevity of the habitat may also the extinction. Global climate change. Climate change is the affecting ecosystem causing the species to the shift their habitat patterns over the place extinction and they cannot adapt to the changing conditions, the changing the temperature, rainfall, the weather, the patterns affect the species suffering. The species that they cannot migrate or the adapt, they quickly end up may face the extinction. Hunting and the poaching, illegal hunting and the poaching for the high price, the tropical hunting, the fishmeat and the other resources lead to rapid decline in the species population, moving not only to the targeted species face extinction, but the in situ conservation. In situ conservation, the protection and preservation of the species of the this across the focus on conservability and ecosystem and the strength of the habitat and ecosystem. It aims to the protect biodiversity in the species balance occur, allowing them to the necessarily biosphere reserve. National park. These are area where human activities is the strictly regulated or the prohibited to the conserve natural ecosystem and wildlife. National park are the designed by the government and offer the highest level of the legal protection to species and the habitats. Example: Jim Corbett National Park, Kaziranga National Park, Wildlife Sanctuary. These are the areas that is the place for the protection of the wildlife and their habitat. When activities are allowed in the wildlife sanctuary, but they are the regulatory from the issue of the minimal disturbance to wildlife. Example: Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary, Wildlife Sanctuary. National Ex situ conservation. Botanical gardens. These are the protected area where Phytofertilization (IVF). This term causes the fertilization of eggs outside the body in the vitro. Is used for the species reproduction when the natural mating is not the possible for or when the species is the critical endangered. Example: IVF programs for the grand pandas, cheetahs, and other endangered species. Role of the local communities in conservation. Local communities is the critical to the success of the biodiversity conservation. Communities living near the protected area have the knowledge and the practice that can conserve biodiversity. The community has the conservation local to the participate is the sustainable practice that they protect the resources while they benefiting from them. Government program in India, the seed village program is an the initiative aimed at the training farmer in the seed production and seed technology. In encourage the farmer to grow, store, and preserve the high quality seed of the local and the native crops, which help in the conserving agriculture biodiversity. Community incentives by engaging local communities in conservation efforts, such as the ecotourism of the sustainable farming. They become key the pillars in the protection of biodiversity and often the benefit the economically from these the practice. Important biodiversity conservation effort India. Number one, legislation by law in India. Wildlife Protection Act 1972. The Wildlife Protection Act 1972 is one of the key components of India conservation effort and has been the instrument in the safeguarding the country diverse wildlife. The Act provides for the establishment of the protection area, the regulation of the wild trade, and the prevention of poaching. It also aims to create an institutional structure for the conservation and management of the wildlife across India. It provides a legal framework for the establishment and the management of the protection area to the conserve the biodiversity. This area includes the national park, wildlife sanctuary, conservation reserve, and the community reserve. Number one, national park. Definition: the national park is and the area that declared by the state government or the central government to be as ecological, uh, geomorphological, faunal, flora, or the zoological significant national park are decided to wildlife conservation and are the menace for the preservation of biodiversity, scenic beauty, and the natural heritage. Legal provision. The Wild the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 allow the state government to declare an area as the national park. One declared the area is the protected from the alteration and the boundaries can only be modified with the recommendation of the National Board of Wildlife (NBWL). Key features: sticker protection. National park enjoy a high degree of the protection compared to the wildlife sanctuaries. Prohibition of the certain activities. In national park, the certain activities like grazing of livestock and the collection of firewood or forest product are strictly prohibited. Conservation focus. National parks are often established to the protect the specific ecological area, species or habitat. Human activities, human settlement and the activities such as the agriculture are not the permitted except for the specific exhibition approved by the government. Example, Jim Corbett National Park, Uttarakhand, Kaziranga National Park, Assam, and Sundarban National Park, West Bengal. Wildlife Sanctuary definition. A wildlife sanctuary is the protected area declared under the Wildlife Protection Act, where the wildlife is given the legal uh, protection from the hunting and poaching. These sanctuaries provide safe habitat for wild animals and the balance, but may they permit the certain regulated activities like grazing and the collection of the forest product. Keep it less restrictive. The wildlife sanctuary that typically allow more the human activities such as the grazing or the collection of the firewood compared to national park. Focus on the species conservation. The wildlife sanctuary can be the created for the protection of the specific species or the particular the ecosystem. These areas are the often the critical habitat for the species at risk of the extinction. Management. The sanctuaries are the management by the state government or the designate forest department PCL. Example, Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary, Rajasthan. Piriya Wildlife Sanctuary, Kerala. Gir Wildlife Sanctuary, Gujarat, famous for Asiatic lions. Key difference between the national park and the wildlife sanctuaries. Expert national park and wildlife sanctuary. Degree of the protection. National park, the higher degree of the protection. Wildlife sanctuary, lesser degree of the protection. Regulation of the activities. National park, strict, no the grazing, no human settlement. And the wildlife sanctuary, some activities like grazing allowed. Focus on the biodiversity and the ecological value, and the wildlife sanctuary can the focus on a single species for the habitat. Legal framework. National park can only be the altered with the approval from the NBWL, and the wildlife sanctuary can be the regulated by the state government. Expert example, national park, Corbett, Sundarbans, Kazirama, Manas, etc. And wildlife sanctuary, Bharatpur, Periyar, Gir, etc. Conservation Reserve Amendment in 2003. Definition. Conservation reserve are the areas that are the recognized for the ecological fauna and the flora significance but are the located the adjacent to the national park or wildlife sanctuaries. They serve as the buffer zones to enhances the conservation of biodiversity and protected habitat. Legal provision. The Wildlife Protection Amendment Act 2003 introduced the conservation reserve to the provide legal backing to areas that are the managed by the local communities, the government for wildlife protection. These reserves help in the conservation of the landscape, seascapes, and the ecosystem without affecting the local people's need. Key features. Community involvement. The conservation reserves often the involve local communities in their management. Local peoples are encouraged to participate in wildlife conservation while the sustaining their livelihood. Flexibility. Unlike the national park, activities such as breath